My mother looked me straight in the eyes on my brother's birthday and said, "Why can't you be more like him for once?" Everyone at the table nodded while I stood there holding the gift I had spent weeks saving up to buy. 3 weeks later, that same woman was sobbing on my doorstep, begging me to save the son she had spent my entire life choosing over me. My name is Caroline Hayes. I was 29 years old, worked as an emergency dispatcher, and had spent most of my life competing in a race I never signed up for. My older brother, Tyler, was my mother's pride and joy. He was charming, outgoing, and had a talent for making people adore him within minutes. I was the dependable one. The one who remembered birthdays. The one who paid bills on time. The one who showed up. But somehow, being dependable was never enough. Growing up, Tyler could crash Dad's car and Mom would say, "He's just going through a phase." I'd come home with straight A's and hear, "That's what you're supposed to do." When Tyler dropped out of college, Mom said he was following his dreams. When I got promoted at work, she asked if I had considered finding a husband. After a while, I stopped expecting fairness. But that birthday dinner broke something inside me. Mom had rented out an entire restaurant for Tyler's 32nd birthday. There were balloons, a custom cake, a slideshow of childhood memories, and a speech prepared in his honor. I had bought Tyler a vintage record player because he'd mentioned wanting one months earlier. When I handed it to him, he barely glanced at it. "Oh. Cool," he muttered before setting it aside. Then Mom stood up to toast him. "Tyler has always had such a special spirit," she said proudly. "He's fearless. He lives life fully." People applauded. Then she turned toward me. "Caroline, sweetheart, maybe you could learn something from your brother. You've always been so serious." Laughter spread around the room. I felt my face burn. "I think I'm doing okay," I replied quietly. Mom sighed dramatically. "You work too much. You don't take risks. Why can't you be more like Tyler?" Even Tyler smirked. For some reason, that hurt most of all. I excused myself to the restroom before anyone could see the tears in my eyes. Later that night, I drove home wondering why I kept trying so hard to earn love that came with conditions. 3 weeks passed. I avoided family gatherings. I buried myself in work. Then one rainy Tuesday evening, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it and froze. Mom stood there. She looked exhausted. Her mascara had run down her cheeks. "Please," she whispered. "I need your help." Panic hit me immediately. "What happened? Is Dad okay?" "It's Tyler." I felt my stomach tighten. Apparently, Tyler had gotten involved with a business opportunity through one of his friends. He had convinced several relatives to invest. Mom and Dad had emptied a large portion of their retirement savings to support him. The business collapsed. The friend disappeared. Tyler hadn't just lost his own money. He had lost everyone else's too. "How much?" I asked. Mom lowered her eyes. "Over $200,000. I nearly stopped breathing. How could this happen? He said he knew what he was doing. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tyler, the risk-taker Mom admired so much, had destroyed the family's finances. "Can you help us?" Mom asked. The question felt like a punch to the chest. Not because of the money. Because suddenly my responsibility mattered. Suddenly my stability had value. "I don't have that kind of money," I said honestly. Mom hesitated. "I know you've been saving." I stared at her. "You criticized me for being cautious." "I know. You mocked me for not taking risks." Tears rolled down her face. "I know." I closed the door gently. "I need time." That night, I couldn't sleep. Part of me wanted to walk away. Another part remembered my father teaching me how to ride a bike. Remembered family movie nights. Remembered that love and resentment can exist together. Then came the first twist. 2 days later, my cousin Jessica called me. "There's something you need to know." Tyler hadn't been scammed. Not entirely. He had knowingly lied about the risks. He had exaggerated projected returns. He had hidden warning signs because he didn't want to disappoint everyone. He wanted to be seen as successful. For the first time in my life, I saw Tyler differently. He wasn't just arrogant. He was desperate. Desperate to remain the golden child. Desperate to maintain the image Mom had built around him. Still, his choices had consequences. I confronted him. "You lied to everyone." Tyler looked hollow. "You think I wanted this? You manipulated people." "I was trying to prove myself." I laughed bitterly. "You already had everyone's approval." His voice cracked. "No, Caroline. I had expectations." I blinked. He continued. "Mom always talked about how special I was. How I was destined for greatness. I couldn't fail. I had never considered that being the favorite could become its own prison." Then came twist number 2. Dad called me privately. He confessed something that changed everything. "We were wrong," he admitted quietly. "What do you mean?" "About you." I sat in stunned silence. "You've always been the one holding this family together." His voice broke. "We just didn't appreciate it." Hearing those words after years of feeling invisible nearly shattered me. Then Mom called. "Can we talk?" We met at a small coffee shop. For the first time in my life, she looked uncertain. "I thought pushing you would motivate you," she admitted. "You humiliated me." "I know. You made me feel like nothing I did mattered." Tears streamed down her face. "I see that now." The apology didn't erase years of pain. But it mattered. Then came the climax. Several family members wanted Tyler arrested for fraud. Others wanted to sue him. The family was splitting apart. Tyler disappeared for 2 days. Nobody knew where he was. Mom fell apart completely. When Tyler finally returned, he looked exhausted. "I turned myself in," he said quietly. Everyone stared. "What?" Mom whispered. "I met with an attorney. I'm cooperating fully." The room went silent. "I screwed up," Tyler admitted. "I hurt people." For the first time in his life, he stopped blaming circumstances. He accepted responsibility. That was the third twist no one expected. I thought revenge would feel satisfying. I imagined telling Mom, "Be more like Tyler." I imagined walking away while they dealt with the consequences. But watching my family collapse wasn't satisfying. It was heartbreaking. Instead, I helped organize meetings with financial advisors. I helped relatives understand their legal options. I helped Dad navigate retirement planning. Not because they deserved it. Because helping others had always been part of who I was. Months later, Tyler took a regular office job. No grand business schemes. No shortcuts. He worked overtime. Sold his expensive car. Started repaying relatives one by one. Mom changed too. One Sunday afternoon, she visited my apartment carrying homemade lasagna. "I wanted to thank you," she said softly. "For what?" "For showing me what strength actually looks like." I smiled sadly. "It took a while." She nodded. "I spent years admiring confidence while overlooking character." Then she added something I'd waited my entire life to hear. "I'm proud of you, Caroline." I cried the moment she left. Not because everything was fixed. Because healing had finally begun. About a year later, we celebrated my birthday. Nothing extravagant. Just dinner at home. As everyone gathered around the table, Mom raised her glass. "When Caroline was younger," she began, "I worried she wasn't taking enough chances." I braced myself. Then she smiled through tears. But I realize now that courage isn't always loud. She looked directly at me. Sometimes courage is being reliable when nobody notices. Sometimes it's doing the right thing even when nobody applauds. Sometimes it's loving people after they've hurt you. Tyler lifted his glass. To my sister. The same sister he'd once smirked at. The same sister he'd spent years overshadowing. I spent my whole life trying to be extraordinary, he said. Turns out, ordinary integrity is much harder. Everyone laughed softly. I looked around the table. At my imperfect family. At the people who had hurt me and disappointed me and, somehow, found the courage to grow. The little girl who had spent years trying to become more like Tyler would never have believed this moment was possible. Because the truth was, I never needed to be more like him. I never needed to be louder. Riskier. More impressive. I didn't need to earn love through performance. The qualities that made me different had never been weaknesses. They were strengths. And maybe that was the biggest karma of all. The daughter who had spent years being told she wasn't enough became the person everyone leaned on when life fell apart. Not because she was perfect. But because she had quietly become exactly who she was meant to be. As we finished dessert that evening, Mom squeezed my hand. I wouldn't change who you are for anything. For years, I thought those words would heal everything. They didn't. But they healed enough. And sometimes, enough is where new beginnings start.